Welcome to the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast, where we dive deep into the intersection of career, family, and finances. Learn the mindsets, tips, and strategies to help you on your personal journey to build a life of abundance and purpose for you and your family. Now here's your host, Aaron Amin. Welcome back to another episode of the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Rob Torsell. Rob has spent his career as a medical device sales rep, but that is only scratching the surface of his story. We talk about his background in kinesiology, plus going through school with an obsession with strength and conditioning. This led him to establish high standards for his own discipline and peak performance across all areas of his life. This led him to start a high performance and mindset coaching business, where he works with other investors to unblock their limiting beliefs and level up their habits so they can set and achieve ambitious goals in their own lives. Further, Rob is currently deep in the pursuit of buying his own small business. We talk about why he is choosing to focus on business acquisition instead of real estate, and how he sees that playing into his vision for the future. Every time I talk with Rob, I expand my own mindset and leave feeling ready to tackle new challenges. I'm excited for you to hear our conversation. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Hybrid Real Estate Professional Podcast. Today, I am joined by Rob Torsell. Rob, introduce yourself to the audience in your own words. Let's hear about you.
What's up, Aaron? I'm super excited to be here. It took us a little bit, but we're here, man. And I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee right now. Medical device sales rep. I've been a med device sales rep for my entire career. I actually went to school for exercise science and kinesiology. So fitness and health and mindset is a pillar of my life and love that. And that's what inspired me to get into performance coaching. So I've got a business doing that right now. It's called Peak Momentum Coaching, and really excited to help people and unlock their full potential. And then I'd have a real estate property duplex that I worked on over the past year and a half, 2 years, and now looking to get into business acquisition through laundromat. I know that was a lot, but I got a lot of crap going on.
We are similar in that regard. Got a lot of things cooking at the same time, but that's a lot of really exciting stuff. And you mentioned you've already built a career. You worked in med device sales. Let's start there. Let's start with your career coming out of college. You said you've worked in this same kind of line in your whole career up until now. What was the kind of progression there, and what do you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I've been a full territory rep my entire career. I attribute my discipline and drive to being a full rep right away, to those two things. I was always told coming out of college, I obviously made that pivot from like exercise science and strength and conditioning right into medical device sales. I was always told that I needed to start in copier sales or some sort of B2B ADP, but I believed in myself and I worked my butt off to try to find a boss that believed in my skills to take me as a full rep. A lot of people go right in as an associate and then they train and learn from the full rep and then take over a territory somewhere else in the company. But I went straight for that full rep role and landed one, fortunately. And I stayed with that company, that first company, for a short period of time until, obviously I met a girl and life changes at that point. So I ended up moving to Connecticut, and I took a different job with a different company that I'm with now and have been for 5 or 6 years. So what I do on a daily basis is I work with customers, specifically doctors, in the cancer diagnostic space. I'm in cancer screenings for colon cancer, but basically my job is to help doctors with their challenges, the problems that they face in that space, and provide the solution with the product that I have. So if I could simplify sales in one sentence, it would be that you take somebody's problem and challenge, and you are the value provider for that, and you bridge that gap to help them overcome that challenge.
Great synopsis indeed. And so do you have a single product, or is it like a series of products and you tailor it based on what the situation is at that specific doctor?
Yeah. So I have, for the most part of my career with this specific company, I've represented one product. I did have a 2 product portfolio at one point, but now I'm just focused on one product. So really, I'm going into different health systems, independent practices, and each situation is different. Like that's something that always needs to be considered, is that you can't take one approach and apply it to everything. You have to take a unique approach. So with working for a health system or working with independent practice, each one has a different challenge. So really the product is the same, but the conversation just sounds a little bit different.
100%. Yeah, I can only imagine learning and going through all those different reps, encountering all those different situations, taught you a lot about sales, taught you a lot about how to connect with people, how to build rapport. And obviously, you made a career out of it. So I think one of the things I like to talk about on this show is how do those skills, how did they lead or enable you to become an investor? And also, like, how did you become interested in investing in the first place?
Yeah, man, I would recommend, it's interesting. I recommend to anyone that they somehow get exposure to sales in some way, shape, or form. Like it comes down to the very, very basic fundamentals of communication. And communication, it makes our world go round, right? We're having this conversation right now. We need to communicate in order to relay the message that we want. And then you need to be able to hear it clearly to understand. So that has helped me greatly in being able to network with business partners, real estate agents, anyone involved in the real estate investing or business acquisition process. So just a huge pillar. The other thing is, we know whenever you're chasing any endeavor in life that is hard, you're going to have rejection. You're going to have challenges and a bunch of no's. That's my day in a nutshell. I might get one yes out of 10, and I got to be able to brush all the other no's off the sleeve. I got to be able to bounce right back and come back the next day with a positive attitude. So having that resiliency to rejection is super key. As if you are in med device sales or a traveling territory sales rep, you will know that when I say you have a lot of alone time, and that means you have a lot of drive time in your own vehicle. So I started listening to podcasts like Bigger Pockets because I had so much time to drive around to different clinics and stuff in my territory. So that really just got me interested in investing in the first place. So it was really my sales career that allowed me the opportunity to maximize my time in the car to learn about that stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's such a good point. Sales. So I always have a weird connotation with sales because it makes me uncomfortable being in the position of trying to sell something. But you're totally right. It maps over in real estate, in positioning yourself to try and be in partnerships and trying to build relationships. I just think the word sales sometimes gets taken out of context, right? But it really is just like it's positioning, it's putting yourself out there, it's willing to face that fear of rejection and it is a numbers game too, right? In many situations where you might not find the right fit a few times in a row, but when you do, it's because you took that many shots, right? Nobody has 100% hit rate on anything they're trying to sell or anything they're trying to pitch. In real estate, you got to put out a certain number of offers to get a couple deals, 1 or 2 deals. Same thing. I know you're searching for a business now. So maybe let's go there next, right? So you dabbled in real estate. You built skills around sales from your career. What made you want to target buying a business?
That's a tremendous question because there's so many asset classes out there. And for anyone listening, if you're at the beginning of what asset class you're trying to pick, it's endless opportunities. Short-term rentals, single family, multifamily, whatever. There's tons of options. What did it for me was I love people. That's one of the reasons I started my coaching business. And what I knew about buying a business was that I wanted to pour into my employees that I had within my company. I didn't want a business that was like a drop shipping type where it was simply a transfer of product and there was minimal interaction with like employees and such. I wanted to search for something where I could build a culture within the company, a place where people could come that they knew they had a voice for their ideas. They knew that they had a stake in the company. And that's what I want to build, is giving equity to people within the company and truly improving their lives for them and their families through the services and the business that we run. And that's what really drew me to the business acquisition in the first place.
Yeah, so it's beyond just the cash flow. It's the ability to build an entire business with a culture, with employees who are incentivized not only by a paycheck, but by an ownership stake in the business to try and build something bigger that you can potentially grow over time. Now, does that mean that you potentially hope to expand into kind of a basket of businesses? Or are you talking about buying a single business and using that as a engine to fund real estate? Like, what's the vision there?
Yeah, I'm a visionary at heart. I caution to get caught up in thinking too far ahead. And what I mean by that is I'm taking the approach of right now, one step at a time. So my goal is to get into that first business, operate, and then see where that takes me. And then at that point, I do foresee us buying some more businesses down the road. But what I like about that approach is when I take it a one step at a time approach, it's a lot easier of a goal or target to reach rather than sitting there and saying, hey, I'm going to get 10 businesses. We need to reverse that back and get the first one to build that momentum towards where you want to go. So my goal, again, in summary, is just getting that first one, man.
Yeah, I think it's a little different than buying single family houses, 3-bed, 2-bath, which all function largely similar strategy, similar plan. You get a property manager or you self-manage it, you collect rent, you put them on a lease. Businesses are slightly more dynamic than that. And so I can understand not trying to assume what it's going to be like to buy your fifth business before you bought your first. So that makes complete sense to me. So at what point you had a background in strength and conditioning from all the way back in your college days, you run a coaching program. How did that kind of parlay into your approach to building your business? And also at what point did you start your coaching business and decide you wanted that to be part of your pursuits as well?
Yeah. So it goes back to, we're starting to talk about this whole like habit creation idea, where one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits. And it talks all about how you create new habits and get rid of bad habits. And I think the number is like takes 28 days to create a new habit. That all goes back, like you said, to my strength and conditioning days, where I came in and I had to earn the respect of the athletes as well as my bosses. And my bosses were pushing me every day to get better. And the standard was the standard. And I had to earn the respect of those athletes. So eventually it just became a situation where it was second nature. And every day I was bringing my 100%. And it just happened to not even be something I thought about anymore. It's hard when you got the bosses and the interns pushing you and you're pushing a sled down with a couple of 45-pound plates and they're going, give it one more, man, give it one more. And you just push beyond your limits at that point. And it really helps you get into that level of uncomfortability. And then you become used to that uncomfortable state day in and day out. And then that just carried over, what almost made my med sales job easier because I was so used to the discipline that was in my strength and conditioning career. And then as far as the coaching business, man, over the past couple of years, I really dove into personal development mindset. I already had, the discipline of running a sales territory and what that took to create really exceptional results over a 7-year period. But through the last couple of years in my experiences, I was like, man, I really want to help people improve their mindsets, reach their goals, unlock their full potential. And I just launched my business this January, and I'm working with a number of people now. And it's just awesome to see the transformations in very short periods of time where you can really dive in to some of the fears and limiting beliefs you have. Once you overcome those, man, the sky's the limit.
I love that. And I've had the benefit of having quite a few conversations with you, and I love the way you think. It's interesting because I think one of the things that comes to my mind is the level of discipline you described, the level of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, pushing yourself and setting those really high standards. I've been in positions like that throughout my life, and I found it hard to sustain. And so sometimes to me, especially as I grow in further into adulthood, I've got a family now and I have these different constraints that make it really hard to hit that kind of peak performance. So I wonder, obviously, all your clients probably come from different backgrounds, but how do you try and help people achieve high performance against all those kind of common constraints that we have, right? Like lack of time, lack of maybe motivation, lack of ability to navigate around our schedules and families and things like that. Like people like myself, like I'm very ambitious, but I have a hard time fitting it all around my other obligations. So just curious, like in general, like how do you encourage people to hit those kind of high standards without being too hard on themselves?
Yeah, it's the value of working with naturally. I think high performers gravitate to me. That's typically what I see as the clientele that I'm working with. And I'm relatable to that because sales is high performance. And I understand the standards that I set on myself. And then I can understand what my client's then dealing with, right? But when you start sentences off with I can't or I therefore lack the time, it may sound simple, right? But simply changing the question to how can I, or what can I do differently? How can I maximize my time? A lot of people, that's one of the biggest ones, right? Lack of time. We all have different impeding priorities. And for high performers, if we work efficiently for an hour, we may work that hour and get a ton done, but still think we're not doing enough. So how do you balance that? You have to consciously work on understanding I did what I needed to do in my day, because it does no good to project into the future and think I need to do more things when you're missing out on the present. And the present might be spending time with your kids. It might be doing a hobby that you enjoy or working out, something like that, which is actually going to benefit you to clear your mind to get ready for the next day. So the takeaway there really is first switching the way you start your sentences. And that can really open up your mind to come up with solutions. And secondly, you can only operate in the present. Don't take yourself away from that.
Yeah, I think it's a common struggle among people, especially something my show is largely about real estate, but it's bigger picture. It's about improving yourself and pursuing your goals. And most of the people listening have ambitious goals, and ambitious goals take a long time to tackle. So what you described about maybe you finished what you needed to finish for the day, but you feel like you're not done. There's that constant gap, right? If we go into that book, the gap and the gain, right? People talk about the difference in those attitudes. There's that constant striving, like, hey, I haven't achieved until I'm done, but we're never done. And reconciling that difference is really difficult for most people. And I can't speak on behalf of other people, but I can definitely speak on behalf of myself. That's something I struggle with. And so I was not really aware that mindset coaching was a thing until pretty recently. I've heard it labeled a few different things, performance coaching, mindset coaching, but I think it's so valuable. And I've heard of even people using it in the corporate environment at the executive level, or if you're trying to get a sales team to function really well and build confidence. But I love the idea of using it for an individual, and especially in real estate and in business acquisition. Because I just think oftentimes the biggest barriers are not money, they are not time, they are not the traditional things that people think are barriers. It's usually your own mind and getting in your own way and not allowing yourself to believe that you can accomplish these things. Is this something that you plan to keep being part of your arsenal, even as you build an empire of businesses? Do you want coaching to be part of your long game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely going to be something that's a passion project of mine. As you were talking, I was thinking of a good analogy for a coach. There's a number of them, right? But I think of a good football analogy that you think of a quarterback who's out there operating the offense, but where oftentimes is the offensive coordinator? They're up in the booth overseeing the field so that they can get a higher view of things that maybe the quarterback can't see at their level. So having somebody else's perspective on looking at your situation, they can see some of the things that might be holding you back that you don't even realize, which is super awesome. And that's one of the things why I have a coach and why I'll continue to have a coach in my life is there's going to be levels that I'll hit, and then there'll just be new challenges that I'll come across that I'll have to deal with that I would need another perspective on, or just bouncing ideas off of someone to give me another strategy or outlook on my situation.
Absolutely. And you just hit on what I was about to ask you, which is, do you work with a coach? And if so, why? You already answered why you do, but do you feel like that is something that makes you a better coach? And do you want to continue to do that throughout the rest of your journey? Are you gonna keep doing that, even if you feel like you've already continued to achieve all these different levels?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at professional athletes, the greats are always looking to level up. They always have a coach there to help continue to push them get better. We're not seeking perfection, but improvement, continual improvement. And that's the key, is just continuing to have coaches there to give you other perspectives, push you past your limits.
And so I always think, so you have a coach, that's a great member to have on your team. I know you and I are also in a mastermind together, and I imagine you've probably been in other networking groups throughout the years. What is the role that communities and masterminds have played in your journey so far?
It's been super awesome. I think my new goal in life is to be in rooms with people that are smarter than me. And I definitely achieved that by going to Costa Rica, man. We were both there, and I felt, I felt pretty dumb, to be honest. There were so many incredible people there, and just sharing ideas, and what that does is just, it helps you continue to get better. Just being around like-minded people that want to do the same things. It's just super cool. And I'm going to continue to do that. Just like I have a coach, I'm going to continue to be involved in communities. I'm actually thinking about doing a community here in Nashville just to get people together and continue to network, share ideas, mastermind. I mean, you just meet tons of cool people. Yourself, man, awesome dude. And there's just tons of people. We just had a meet up here in Nashville too. That was great. We had great speakers. So they're very cool.
Yeah, I agree with putting yourself in the room with smart people. I disagree with you being dumb. And I think that's a limiting belief I'm going to have to call you out on, given your line of work. But I totally understand the principle. And it's just, there are not a ton of people that spend their extra time, their free time, leveling up and studying. And it's not to belittle anybody else's lifestyle, right? But I sometimes have this conversation with people, family members or friends, that nobody's knocking me for doing this with my free time, but sometimes people don't understand. I actually enjoy doing this. I enjoy the process of self-development, pursuing, investing, looking for new deals, learning new skills. Like that is my hobby. That is my passion. And it just so happens to push me towards the goals that I have for my family too. So it's a win. But I think sometimes there's other people in our lives that that doesn't resonate with them. And so joining these masterminds and communities and meeting other people who like, yeah, this is what they do too. It just shows us like, okay, we're not totally crazy. We're not totally unhinged. It's okay to want these things and it's okay to pursue them. And it's certainly like a good thing to encourage each other and support each other as we do it. So yeah, I agree, man. Those mastermind, and particularly the one we're a part of, has been very fruitful and great for my confidence thus far. And it wasn't even until I joined that I started learning about the business acquisition and all these other things I could be doing. With that said, when I first joined, and I started seeing all these different asset classes and businesses and stuff I could pursue. I will admit I got very distracted immediately, right? Because there was 100 different things I could do. And it took me several months of navigating and meeting people and learning to see what I really wanted to focus on, which kind of landed me right back where I started, which was on single family real estate. And so the next question I want to ask you about is real estate. So you mentioned you house hacked a duplex. I think you're sitting in one half of it right now, if I'm not mistaken. What role do you see real estate playing in your future?
Yeah. So I actually, there for a while, I was really heavy in thinking I wanted to invest in like multifamilies and go straight for that. But I actually shifted my perspective and I said that I wanted to now use my active income or money from the business acquisition to fund the real estate. And that's just my approach. And I think it goes back to like in the community, there's so many Austin perspectives that you're going to get. What you have to do is figure out what's best for Aaron, what's best for Rob, what's best for the next person out there as you as an individual. Because there's going to be so many opportunities thrown your way. You have to figure out what is your vision, get clarity on that, and that will help you build a muscle to say no to all the shiny objects that might be out there. But the house hack was super powerful because it's now allowing me the opportunity to limit my expenses. I'm cash flowing $1,000 a month. To be quite honest with you, there were quite a few failures that turned into awesome learns. So I built that muscle tremendously. And I look to invest in multifamilies in the future after my business acquisitions are up and running and I can take those profits and put them into some real estate.
Yeah, totally fair, man. And like you said, it's a new perspective. It's one that I hadn't really been exposed to until I joined the mastermind we're in. And that is a viable route. That is something where if you build a cash flow engine, and like you said, it scratches another itch for you too, which is building a company where you can empower others, you can have employees that have equity and all these other things that you're passionate about. It's not the same when you buy a single family house. Like you don't necessarily get to build a company. Yes, it is a business. It is absolutely a business. And technically speaking, if you have an LLC, it's a company, but it's not the same. So I can see building this dynamic portfolio where you have your business, you have your real estate, you have your coaching. And I love it, man. It's not too far off from what I am planning in my life in the long term. But you said something about visions. I want to touch on that. So one of the things in our community that we're encouraged to do is set a 3-year vivid vision. And a vivid vision there's different versions of this floating around out there, but essentially you pick 3 years in the future and you imagine your day and you visualize every last detail of it. What does it feel like? Where am I? Who am I with? What is my health like? How do I feel? And not only that, but obviously then you get into the details of like, where do I go to work? Am I going to work? What is my income like? All these details. And I'm sure you probably run through that with some of your coaching clients, but can you maybe unveil for us a little bit? What does your vision look like 3 years from today?
Ooh, I wasn't anticipating that question, but yeah. So I anticipate myself in 3 years being first and foremost having a family started. So my awesome fiance, Kara, will be married at that point, God willing, and have a couple kids at that point running around. Maybe they'll be 2 or 3 years old, maybe have beards already like me. But yeah, and then at that point, my health is obviously utmost importance. So I look to continue to prioritize my health and have the freedom to design my day where I can empower others through my coaching, but also operate the businesses that I run. That at that point, I've got a monetary number that I have set on what I want to reach for those businesses. So there's a hope to have 2 businesses in 3 years. That's a vision right now. And I always lead with, I think a lot of people, when they think of a vision, they immediately go to the monetary aspect. But what I really realized was all the other aspects of my life, I want to prioritize those, right? Those are the first things. I think I heard something the other day, and maybe Brian Lubin mentioned this, but life is like juggling a bunch of balls in the air. And the only one, all of them are glass except for work, which is rubber. So work can always bounce back, but the other aspects of your life, family, your health, other things, they're a lot more fragile and sometimes can't be repaired. So you've got to be able to prioritize those and make sure those are intact and not lose sight and only prioritize work or only prioritize real estate to live that fulfilling life that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's so true. I have learned that lesson the hard way. I used to prioritize work above everything else, and I still prioritize work. I still have a career that I'm grateful and thankful to have had the opportunity to grow in. But I had my own flirtation with the glass almost shattering on my health and even some of my relationships because I was focusing on all the wrong things. And so, yeah, that example and that metaphor definitely resonates with me. So you mentioned from your vision, the wanting to have kids at some point. And I'm just curious. So how much of this idea of kind of building businesses, investing in real estate, doing all these things that have such a long-term potential for generating wealth and just value for you and your family, how much of that is rooted in the desire to build for a family? And do you see this being something that you build that you want your kids to eventually learn about and be involved in? What role do your future kids play in this kind of vision?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the way I look at it is if I were advising my kids to go after their dream, I would tell them to go for it. And I should be the example, right? I should be the example. If dad's not going after his dream, then what does that say? So I want to embody what I'm teaching my kids to do, and that's go after their dreams. So that not just builds confidence in myself, but that shows an example to my future kids of, hey, look, dad's chasing his dreams. That means I can too.
Yeah.
That's really what I think about oftentimes. And then, yeah, you want to build the best life you possibly can for your kids, but you also want them to go through their own challenges and learn and build their own thing if they choose or take over what you've built. So yeah, I think in general, it's all about how I see the kids learning from the experiences that I've had in my life.
Yeah. No, I love that. And definitely have to lead by example. And there's sometimes we find, I'm sure, like I have twins on the way and I have no idea what their personality is going to be like. They're identical twins, but they could, in theory, have different personalities. I have a 2-year-old daughter. God knows what they're going to be interested in. And I have no idea if they're going to be even remotely interested in real estate. But I do know that, to your point, they will see their parents pursuing something they're passionate about, building something that's important to them. They'll understand the value and the concept of equity. And they'll see too, again, part of my whole brand with the hybrid professional thing is that my career has been an important part of my life too. And so you don't have to only do one thing. You can have multiple identities. You can have multiple pursuits and succeed in all of them as long as you stay grounded in your vision for what you want for yourself. And to your point, don't drop the glass balls. Keep your health, your family, your relationships in the air. Don't ever let them fall. And the rest will play out as it will. So I love those lessons. I love the way you reframe things and keep what's important front and center for you. So what would you say to a newer investor or someone who's just getting started on this journey? What would you say is the most important first step for them?
It's better to take action than not. And there's what I would call a kind of a period, a medium of percentages of between about 40% and 70% knowledge of an asset or any sort of thing you're pursuing to which you have 40% knowledge. Up until that, you needed maybe a little bit more knowledge to get up to that 40%. Anything over 70, it's not as productive. So there's that 40 to 70% range where it's best now to take action and get in the trenches. So once you learn the basics, once you learn what you need to learn, take action, because at that point, you're going to get in the trenches, you're going to get uncomfortable and get used to being uncomfortable. Because if you're going to be an investor, there's going to be a lot of things that come your way that you're going to be presented with challenges. But at the other side of it, you get through it, you're going to be better from it, and you're going to achieve the goals that you want to achieve.
Maybe a little preview of what it would be like to take a coaching session with Rob there. That was poignant, man. And it's so true. I think when I think back to my first rental, I knew nothing compared to, what I know now. But I believe that I learned more from just getting in the game. And I like to think of it as imperfect action, right? If you wait for only the perfect, most crystal clear choice to come around, you might be waiting a while at the beginning before you've built the network and the knowledge. But sometimes you do need to take some action to just try and get in the game. And you'll learn more that way than if you're just, waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment may or may not come. And only by moving forward incrementally are you going to even move towards your goals. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think you have so many different things going on, but at the center of it all, you have discipline, you have a great mindset, and you've found a way to impact the lives of others too along the way. And so where can our audience reach out to you? How can they learn more about your coaching program, and any other way that you'd like them to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at, my email is peakmomentumcoaching@gmail.com. And you can find me, Rob Torsell, on Instagram. I'm working currently on getting a landing page created. Hold tight on that. But yeah, those are the two best ways to reach out to me right now.
Awesome. I will make sure all that stuff is in the show notes, and that you guys have a way to get in touch with Rob. I know a few people that coach with him that are very happy. I can say from firsthand experience, Rob knows how to really put things in perspective. And so I highly recommend reaching out to him if you're looking for a little bit of mindset coaching. And Rob, thanks so much for coming on the show. I will look forward to having you back again sometime in the future to hear about all your businesses once you get them rolling.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been awesome.